All right, I am recording and my volume is up, and I am going live on Facebook. Today is January 31st. Okay, how come I'm not seeing it go live yet? Go live. There we go. Takes a minute to go live. Don't see it going live yet. I had this screen up for a while, so let's try it. Third time's a charm.
Not live yet.
Nope. Okay. We can close some windows. Maybe that's the problem. I have too many things open. Okay, go live broadcast. I think I've had this happen before. I might just have to close it to start it again. So let me pause the recording. And oh, I don't want it on timeline. Oh, group. I've accidentally done that before. I don't want to do that. Creating cultural legacy. Enter description, day 2. Go live. See if it'll work this time. It is loading and it is live and I am recording. Hello, this is Kathy coming to you on day 2 of creating cultural legacy. I am honored to be your guest, host, speaker, moderator, mentor, coach, whatever label you want to put on me that's appropriate for today. I created a little something for you and I printed it out just so you could see it for those of you who may not have ordered it yet. Remember, I told you about the playbook. The playbook is my story of this particular challenge and some wisdom in the form of strategy and nuggets on why I created this, what are some strategies that will take you from owning to investing to creating a cultural legacy. So that's what it's all about. If you missed yesterday, my name is Kathy Cross-Reese. I am the broker owner of Imagine Real Estate, and I have been studying under the 100X community, creating challenges, crush it with challenges. I've gone through a lot of personal and professional development courses to get me where I am today. So I'm taking all of what I've learned, not all, but some of what I've learned, and I want to share it with you because I believe when we know more, we can do more, we can be more. I believe we were created for a particular purpose, a special purpose. Each and every one of us has a unique fingerprint, is what I like to call it. We have a unique fingerprint. No two fingerprints are alike, even with identical twins. You know that? No two people are exactly alike, no matter how much they look alike. They are uniquely designed by our Creator, and He's gifted each and every one of us a gift to create. So I'll take a quick review or recap of what I went through yesterday. And I want to remind you that I have prizes. This is a 3-day challenge. A challenge is an opportunity for you to learn and to grow with me. Challenge is just like it sounds. It's something that may be a little difficult or a little hard or problematic, but there is a solution. There is a way out. There is a way through. There is a way over. There is a way. So I'm sharing with you one specific way through a 3-step process in how I have designed and I continue to renovate and restore and change and design my cultural legacy plan. So the playbook that I showed you, I posted it accidentally, the whole book in the group, and no one grabbed it. So I pulled it back, I put just the cover sheet, and I have the link there for you so you can purchase it. The playbook, the $7 will go toward the benevolent fund for a dear friend who recently passed away a couple of days ago. Her name is Margot Wheeler Willis. She's a prominent realtor in my community, and she was a force to be reckoned with. A dynamic leader, mother, grandmother, teacher, mentor. She was not only the president of the local association, but she was president over the National Women's Council of Realtors Association. So with that in mind, with your contribution of $7, you're going to get some valuable content, and you're going to be able to contribute to a dear friend of mine who I believe is leaving a cultural legacy. She's one, just like the previous lady I told you about in my challenge that she went through with me, Yolanda Baker. She's also creating and still creating, even though she's not here, her fingerprint has left an indelible mark, a mark that will last for generations to come. Both of them were grandmothers. Both of them have left significant loss in their own family. So I do want to give respect to their families. I also want to let you know that, well, you probably already know that, but we all too will pass away someday. And the question is, what will you create in a process and what will you leave behind so that others can know that your fingerprint matters, that your life matters, that the legacy that you've created, you can pass on for generations to come. And one more note, in the playbook, I've added some additional resources for you and some ideas, because not only can you create legacy through real estate, you can create legacy through businesses that you acquire. You can create legacy through art, artistic talents that you have. I've personally been learning how to play the guitar, so I'm hoping to be able to pass on some of those skills to my children's children, because my grandchildren are the ones that are really interested in that right now. But I digress. So remember the playbook. Please, please, please make your contribution. And I mentioned that I have prizes. So at the end of this challenge, which is tomorrow, I have prizes, and I'll do the wheel spin for anyone who has done their homework, which is basically going live in this group, sharing your biggest takeaway. One is to purchase the playbook. Two could be, I think, what was the other one? You could purchase the recordings if you choose to purchase the recordings. And then tomorrow I'll tell you about another opportunity where we can go a little further into where I can work with you in a more in a more private way, so that I can help you create your cultural legacy. So I'm excited about that. Yesterday, it was all about ownership. I did introduce mindset, because if you don't have it up here, it's really going to be hard to get it out there. So it starts with the mind. And after that, you have that heart's desire to get something, and then you go after it. So it starts with the mind. If you think it's possible, then it is. You can own real estate. And I just heard Miles Monroe. I was listening to him before I came on today, and he was saying that if you are a tenant, now I may be speaking to some people that are not owners right now, but if you are a tenant and you have the mindset of an owner, then you are poised in the right position to go on and start acquiring real estate or start acquiring property. But if you're a tenant that says, that ain't mine, those aren't mine, owner will fix that, I don't have to do that, doesn't belong to me. If you have that mindset, then that keeps you in that tenant mentality. So I want you to have a mentality of ownership. And I did also mention yesterday that with ownership, it's really, I believe we are stewards. We get to steward not only our bodies, but we get to steward whatever is around us. I'm a believer in, the word says that we get to take dominion and territory. How do you take dominion and territory unless you own real estate? Right? That's how you take dominion and territory, by acquiring property, right? I also heard him say, and I listened to a lot of Miles Monroe, so if you haven't heard of him, he talks a lot about the kingdom. He also said that we as people have given up our ability to take territory, to take dominion to the things. What do I mean by that, or what did he mean by that? He says, if you're controlled by a leaf, by a plant, if you're controlled by a grape, by a glass of wine, if you're controlled by that, if that consumes you and controls you, then you're not taking dominion and territory. But I digress. I just wanted to kind of give you a little insight into some wisdom that I learned today that I just wanted to share. It was top of mind. So yesterday was about ownership. It was about mindset. I gave you my big why. Each and every one of us has a why. Why do you go to work? Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Why? My grandsons ask that almost every day. Why? As an adult, we need to be asking ourselves why. Why do we go through the motions? Are we going through the motions, or do we have an intent, a vision, a direction that we want to go? Do we have a heart's desire? Are we dreaming again? I believe kids do that so well. They dream and they can think of what they want to be when they grow up, and tomorrow it's something else, and the next day is something else, because their minds are constantly creating and thinking and dreaming, because they don't have the limitations that we as adults sometimes have, which is up here. Because when we're little, maybe we've heard, you can't do that, girls don't do that, we don't do that in our household. Hear all the can't and should and won't. But you get to dream, you get to own, you get to invest, which is what we're going to talk about today. Investing. I started investing after I purchased my first home. I purchased my first home, and then as a realtor, I tend to drive around neighborhoods. And I like to look at nice houses. I like to dream. When I have, time off, I like to just drive certain areas and look and say, wow, I really like these houses in this community. I really like this style of house. So it was at one of those particular junctions that I was out dreaming, which I want to challenge you to do. I was out dreaming and driving around in this particular community where I live now. There were only 3 homes. But what I saw out there was, my imagination told me that I could see a house that fit me. I had a certain design and style that I wanted. I hadn't even met with an architect yet, but I had it in my mind, had it in my heart. I said, I want this. And I kept saying that to myself until I said it out loud. And I was in the car by myself. I said, man, it would be nice if I could live out here. And what I heard in return kind of shocked me, but it let me know that I was limiting myself, because I was talking as though it wasn't possible. But the voice that came back from me said, why not? So there's that why again. Why not? So the only limitation I had was here and here, because I was thinking, this isn't quite possible. I already own a home. I haven't, as a realtor, I haven't gotten pre-qualified. I hadn't done all the things. That's not what a dreamer does. A dreamer doesn't sit and calculate all of the things that they need to do before they take the launch, before they take the leap of faith. And so I want to encourage you to take that leap of faith. What is it that's been holding you back, saying, well, I can't, I don't have time. That's another one. I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't, all the, I call them excuses, all the limiting beliefs that we have. So just strip that away and think about, what can you invest in terms of real estate or other assets? What can you invest in? I say real estate because that's what I do for a living, but maybe you have other assets that you can invest. There's paper assets. There's fine jewelry. I mean, some people invest in gold coins. The list goes on and on. So what is it for you? I believe real estate is the number one, and I've kind of been challenged on this lately, but I believe real estate is the number one wealth builder for not just millionaires, but billionaires. But I've also discovered that this online space, being an entrepreneur, a what is it called? Digital marketer, has surpassed in this space, it has surpassed real estate. But those people that are digital marketers, they're also homeowners and they're also investors. So you tell me, which is it, the chicken or the egg? I think it's a combination of the two, but my passion is with real estate. And so today I'm going to take you on a journey of investing. You may not have even thought about investing. Maybe you think there's only for certain people to invest and they're called investors, but you can be an investor as well. You can invest. You can start with what you already have in your hands. And what might that be? That might be the home that you're already living in right now. That could be your first investment. I know that was for me. Actually, it ended up being my first investment. My first home that I bought right after getting out of the military. I bought that home, raised my daughter, got married, had two more children. And as our family grew and my husband has and still has knee problems, we both decided it would be best if we lived in a one-story home, but we just talked about it. We never took action. And that's the thing. You need to take action. If you think about it and you ponder it, but you don't take action, then it's just like not doing anything at all. You might as well not even dream if you're not going to take the action. So I'm an action taker. I don't know how many of you are married and you have one that's more risk adverse and one that's very cautious and practical and does not like to take risks. That's how it is in my household. I'm a risk taker. I will take the risk. My husband's a little more conservative and would rather us have everything together before we leap. I just leap. I just leap because if I believe it, if I know it's possible, then I don't allow myself to limit myself. So what did I do when I was at that corner and I was dreaming about this new house that I knew we wanted as a family? And I heard myself say, I wish I could live here. And why can't I live here? And the answer would came back to me, you can live here. Why not? The only thing that's limiting you is you. So what did I do? What action did I take? I called the number on the sign and the rest is history. I've lived in that house now for 22 years. And so that was my first investment. My father was a bit surprised at that because his idea of owning real estate is paying all cash for it. So he didn't like the fact that I got financing for it, but it was my dream home. It was our dream home. And that was my first step to investment. And it built upon layer after layer. That was my first investment was my first home. So the home that we moved out of became our first investment, my husband and I. That was our first investment. And after that, I saw mentors in the industry in which I live, and they encouraged me, it was one in particular, encouraged me to buy a home a year. And so I was on that trajectory of buying a home a year. And that worked for a while. And if you're familiar with the 2007, 2008 timeframe where the market crashed, I was a part of that. And I took a huge loss because I had pretty much compiled a lot of real estate with no money down because at that time you could pretty much go into a lender's office and say, hey, I want to buy this apartment complex, I want to buy this, and they say, sure, sure, here's a loan, here's a no doc loan, here's a no fee loan, all these different loans. And it came to a point where it all came crumbling down. And so I'm saying this to say, Just because you may have had a failure, just because things didn't work out the first time or things didn't work out the second or third time, doesn't mean you can't own and invest in real estate. But be wise, learn. Right now, I should have showed you my book. I'm taking a course in commercial wholesaling, commercial fundamentals, because I believe that the more I learn, the more I'm able to actually take those skills and execute them. But I want to stay on the same level of knowledge. And I want to encourage you, if there's an area in which you want to grow, study, learn, and grow. If you're not sure about investing in real estate and you don't know how it works, read about it, learn about it. There's always books for, I'm not calling you a dummy, but I'm saying there's always books for dummies, right? You can always learn a new skill set. And with these skill sets, you can amass your own, I'm not going to call it an empire, but it's kind of what I was thinking, but you can amass wealth through real estate. It's one of the best sources to amass real estate. Now, I've been talking for quite a while, so I want to take a quick peek and see if there's any questions before I go a little further into investing, because I do have a special guest that I'd like to just do a one-on-one with and see what her thoughts are about generating wealth through creating a cultural legacy. Yesterday, I talked about culture in the extent that culture is not just your physical appearance, culture is not just your location, culture is everything that comprises you. I gave you a little challenge yesterday about going to someone in your family, an older parent, uncle, cousin, relative, and interview them. If you do that, and I did share with you that I'm doing that right now with my mother because she lives with me. So take those interviews, because those stories that you learn from your parents, that you learn from your relatives about the history and the culture of your people. You may or may not be African American, but learn about your history, your people. We as a collective, African Americans, have a rich history that is torn in tragedy, but many of us are so far removed from that, and we have our own legacy within our own lineages that we aren't even aware of. I went on Ancestry DNA and I found out I have great uncles that served in the Korean War, that served in, my daughter got locked out of her house and she's calling me. Let me tell her. She knows I'm on a Zoom. Oh, I text her. So if she texts me back that she needs me, I will pop off because it's an emergency. I just lost my chain of thought. Nadia, where was I at before the phone call? I just lost my chain of thought. Uh, let's see. So I was talking about, do you remember, Nadia?
asking your parents, your
Oh,
uncles.
yes. Okay. So yesterday I had given you some homework about interviewing uncles, parents, and I found out in my ancestry DNA that I have I think it's two great uncles that served in the Korean War and World War II and World War One. So seeing that, I thought, wow, I wasn't even aware of that. And I even saw pictures. So I decided, this was even before that, but I decided to have a family reunion for my mother's side of the family, because my father's side of the family, my father always made a point to take us to Mississippi, which is where they are from, to Mississippi to meet all of our relatives. So I knew them intimately. I mean, they would see us every year. My grandfather lived with us until I graduated from high school. So we knew them like a village. We were a village, a large family. My father had 13 brothers and sisters, so a very large family, lots of cousins. My mother, on the other hand, I don't know a lot about her family because we spent so much time with my father's family. So with my mother's family, she is the last living matriarch from her family lineage. All of her siblings are gone. So for a gift for her, part of the legacy that I'm creating is a reunion, which is going to be in Chicago next year. That's kind of a side note, but I'm creating this for her. So I'm doing recordings of her. I'm getting stories of her, and she actually wants to write a book. So that's part of the legacy that I'm creating, not just for myself, but for her and for my grandchildren, her great grandchildren, that we can pass on. So, what is it that you're creating that you want to pass on to the next generation? So, I want to call up my dear friend, Miss Nadia, and I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about creating cultural legacy. If you're available now, I don't know if you are now, but if you're available now, I'd like you to come on screen. I have a couple of questions for you. I'm going to change the screen view so that we can see your lovely face. All right, all right. And you are muted, just so you know. You're muted.
Thank you for inviting, Katie. I'm just enjoying watching and participating in your creating cultural legacy. This one is an amazing topic and the amazing activity that you are doing by asking us to ask all generation where and how they got created the legacy. But again, it is very hard for us as newcomers to Canada, when all of your roots are in your original country. So it's very hard to get in touch, and now it's too late. Already everybody's gone.
Okay, it's not too late. It's maybe too late to interview the older people, but there are ways to find out through some of the DNA searches. You could
Yeah,
do a DNA search. That's how I found about the great great uncles. So when you do those DNA searches, they not only tell you where they served in the military, but they'll tell you if they had a business. They'll tell you, I mean, all of these facts are at your fingertips. So when you take a look at the playbook, look at those other resources where you can find out. Because I do hear you say that, okay, it's too late. Mom's gone, the uncles are gone, the aunts are, all of the older generation are gone, but they've left a fingerprint somewhere that's recorded, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I already did my DNA and I already found 6, 7, 8 cousins somewhere. Yeah, I'm working on it, but very important to work on the property that I'm leaving the legacy to our only son.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's your primary residence that you live in now. That is your plan to leave that for him.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't, we moved to Canada. We did not think about home. I did not think about to buy, because, well, all of the income that we had, and my husband, let's buy the property. I say, what? We don't have money. He said, go ask. And me getting into the agency room, I introduced myself. I say, do you know what? Would like to buy house. She looked at me. She said, okay. And I'm continue, but I don't have money. She looked at me more seriously. Okay, I can help you. Do you have account in this bank? I say, no, but if needed, I can open the account. She said, yes, we can loan you the down payment, and we can work together. I can help you. And then I continue. Do you know what? I'm looking for house. I would like to run child care in it. She was more curious. Do you see what I have already planned for her? So yeah, after a few months, she showed me only 5 homes. And we stopped on fifth one because that was the home that it met all of my parameters, what I was looking for to have safe childcare, and the windows in the basement big enough for me to get out with kids in case. So, and we purchased it. And luckily, I ran the childcare in my home for 6 years.
I was just going to ask you if you had a business that was in the home. Okay.
Yes, yes. And this business was paying part of the mortgage, part of the utilities, part of the food. So kind of everything was working for good. This is what, when I say that, yeah, we're living in this rental apartment. What's wrong with it? No. He said, my husband, no, we're paying to someone money.
Right.
And we tomorrow, in 1 month, he will kick us out from here. So what? We have to pay, find another one? Smart boy.
Yes.
This
You
is
married
why
a good man. Tell him thank you. Thank
this is
you.
why I stuck with him already for 37 years.
That's good. That's good.
It's very important to think about earlier how you can leave the property. Yes, now we have this home, and something happened with us. We have our son who can continue living here and have it pay off. I don't know what he was going to do, sell it. I don't care, but this one that
Right.
I would like to leave for him.
Right.
So when you said that creating cultural legacy, I never thought about to leave. And only a year ago, when you started this challenge, I said, okay, we don't have any will. How can we have him here? So created the will, so everything is legal and etc. So
You just led to the next part that I was going to ask you. What do you think are the important documents that a person should have when they're talking about creating this legacy? What sort of documents are important to you?
to me, it is to have it official, even though that he does not physically live here, and we are only here, both of us, myself and my husband, and he lives in another province. For us to have him be as an owner, we have to leave the will for him. So for us to know that if something happened with us, with one of us, and we won't be able to pay all of this, so kind of he is taking ownership and do whatever he wants to do. And this is what we thought about. In my country, we never leave any will. Not that I'm aware of it. We have the cultural that youngest one, especially boy who is youngest, all of property of parents stays with him.
Okay, tell
He's a
everyone
owner.
what country. Everyone doesn't know the country.
Okay, I'm originally from Ukraine, and I live now in Canada with my family. So yeah, but that time that my parents were alive, and I have youngest brother, so kind of I know that nothing for me in this home. Everything will be and have only my brother who will have it. So, and up until now, we kind of this is how does it work. Youngest one is getting, if there is a youngest will be the daughter, so she's getting married and live in that home, so taking
Okay.
care of parents as well. So kind of, yeah.
So someone's already living in your family home.
Now, yes, because my brother, he out the country as well. Uh, my niece occupied it, and she's taking care of of that home with her beautiful family of 3. So she was last one who he loves to stay there with my mom when she was alive. So, and kind of she continue living in that home, and I'm blessed that it is taken care of.
Good, good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you taking the time to share that. I just thought it would be important for people to hear from someone who has already considered the things that I've been teaching and is actually taking action. Because if you don't take action, you can think about it. And then if you don't take the action and something happens to you, then probate. I don't know if that happens in your country, but we have probate where the municipality decides, the government decides what happens to the real estate. So I appreciate you for taking that on, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for inviting, and whoever is watching, whoever is considering, just follow steps that Katie is teaching you. I'm already participating in this challenge for so long time. She is putting into you guys gold and nuggets there that you just take and use, because no one will take so much time to explain and teach and show and provide information that you are just she's putting on the plate with silver. Do you know silver
Silver
ring?
lining.
Yes, just grab whatever is there. She's giving $7, and this is all of money is going to the friend of her that I know. She was one of participant in one of challenges, and sadly she left this earth, but she had the vision, and all of her vision, all of her legacy, children took over, and they are continue her words, her dreams. And this is how does it work, to leave the legacy for children's of children of children's. So
Yes.
it is not only to grandchildren, but children's of children's of children's. I like this this
You like
wording.
saying that.
Yes. I like saying it. Yes, I do. And thank you, Katie, for thinking about new generation as well, for them already to start thinking about their children. And I liked another day that you had the interview with your
Niece.
niece, and just because you were so close with your sister, and she is continue being there for you, and you helping her children as well. So it is amazing, amazing what you're doing. Continue, and guys, do not leave hands empty. Just grab what you have there, because tomorrow will be last day of challenge, and who knows what next month will happen. So
So
take
true.
action now, today.
All right. Thank you, Miss Nadia.
Thank you.
So now I want to speak a little bit more about investing. I did mention to you that my first investment became my first investment after I purchased my second property. Now, if we fast forward that, because we're talking about creating cultural legacy, I learned a lot about real estate through my father. If you look at the playbook up really close, don't know if you can see that, but there's a little girl on there, and she has a red dress. And that is me. And at an early age, I believe I was only 3 at that age. And that was my mother and father's first rental home. We rented from a relative. And by the next year, we were in our own home, because I come from a lineage of homeowners. My grandfather was a homeowner. I believe his father, yes, his father was a homeowner. It was Richard and Mary Cross. They were homeowners. Lacelle and Lula Cross, they were homeowners. My father, Freddie and Effie Cross, they were homeowners. So I come from that lineage of ownership, real estate ownership. And when I came into the business of real estate, I didn't really understand why people didn't always pursue owning real estate. Not just owning real estate, but I come from a lineage of investors. My father was an investor. My father and mother are investors. Father was, he's passed. My grandparents were investors. Maybe they didn't invest the way we see it today as having multiple residences, but they own acres and acres and acres of land. One of my grandparents owned over 40 acres. Now that 40 acres has some historical significance, but they actually purchased those 40 acres. So when you think about your lineage, sometimes you might think, okay, I don't come from that mindset. I don't come from owning real estate and seeing that as part of my future. Well, you can create a new future, a new identity based on where you want to go. So it doesn't matter if you've never owned real estate. It doesn't matter if your parents rented as long as you can. It doesn't matter if you lived in a trailer park. There was a lady that spoke on the Wisdom Challenge. She said she was raised by teenage parents and they lived in the trailer park. She suffered abuse. And at the age of 19, she purchased her first business. At the age of 20, she started purchasing real estate. So, what does that story say to you? It doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you go. What action are you going to take? And this is here to just say, I come from a certain place and I have a certain mindset. You might have a different mindset and come from a different place, but we can all meet in the middle and say, yes, I can see the vision. I can see the need of ownership. I can see the need of investing. I can see the need of multiplication because owning one, once you own one and you learn what the mechanics are in terms of managing from afar, because there's this, I call it a divorce or a dance that happens where you have a shift. You go from being an owner to an investor. I lived in this house. I took care of this house a certain way. We mowed the grass a certain way. Everything was done a certain way. We moved out and we had people move in, right? That's part of Tennessee, right? People moved in. They didn't maintain it the same way. So at first I felt a little different, like, maybe I don't want to be an investor. But I realized I needed to understand it was an investment and it wasn't my home anymore because I wasn't living there. I had a new home. So it was an investment. And how do you treat your investments? The investment was the tenant who was paying me every month to live there. That was my new investment, not the house. It was the tenant because the tenant was paying me money, just like I pay the bank money because I owe them money for the mortgage. The tenant was paying me money. And as long as the tenant was taking care of the house, may have not been exactly the same way I take care of it, but that was a shift. And maybe you're going through that shift too, and you're thinking, okay, this house that I live in, this is my house. I'm not moving. Well, if that's what you want, that's fine too. But what other assets can you invest in? Do you have businesses? Have you heard of notes, paper assets, stocks and bonds? Are there other vehicles that you can use to invest? If you're here with real estate, meaning this is the top, your ownership is the top, and you can't see investing beyond there, then find another asset. But don't stop because what you're creating is creating wealth, not just for yourself, but for generations to come. They're going to learn from you. They're either going to learn from you and how you did things well, or they're going to learn how you maybe didn't do things so well. I want my next generations to learn not just from my successes, but also learn from my failures. Because it's the failures in which I pick myself back up and get back in the game and continue to play the game of life. Because it's not over when you make a mistake. We're humans, we're not perfect, we make mistakes. life goes on. So this is my kind of my encouragement pep talk call to you to don't limit yourself by your mindset and start dreaming again. Start thinking of those things. What are the desires of your heart? What are the things that you want to pursue in this life? Because we only get this one time, as far as I know. I don't know. I only think we get this one time. So this one time, I want to get this pursuit right. This pursuit of growth, of development. And that's another piece. Maybe it's not real estate. Maybe it's not a business. Maybe it's not assets. Maybe it's the professional development, the investment that you've made in yourself. Those things that you can transition and transfer on to the next generation. I take my grandsons with me as much as I can to show them what I do, not just to take them for treats and I say treats, they like ice cream, candy, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So not just that, but I like to take them to work. I bring them into the office. They do get a prize when they come here, but I have them sit down and write something, do something while you're here. Maybe take out the trash. I know when I started my career, I was a single mom. I had my daughter taking out the trash. Learn a skill. Teach your kids and your grandkids something that they can look back and say, wow, I remember when. I remember when. I can look back at the next generation. Fortunately, my mother's still living, so she can share stories with me about my father's family and about her family that I never knew. I never knew a lot of these stories that she's sharing with me now. So I'm capturing them. And I don't want to miss out on that. I don't want to take it for granted that she's going to be here always. I know I might pass before her, so I want to make sure that I capture it all. I want to capture it all. So what is it that you need to capture to create your cultural legacy? Is there something that you've been thinking about that you said, I could do this, but I don't have time. Hmm, I really want to do that, but I don't see how it's possible. What are the desires of your heart? What are the dreams that you have concerning creating that cultural legacy? Don't let these moments pass you by. And if you're like me and you have a living relative, I actually have a uncle that is 96 years old. And every time I go home, I interview him. I actually have videos of him on the phone. I have videos of my father too, but at the time before he passed, I wasn't thinking long term. I was not even thinking he would pass when he passed because everything was fine. There was no signs, no indication that he would suddenly pass. I mean, he had his issues with health, but there was nothing life altering. So when I got the call, I was a bit shocked and I looked back at all of the pictures and all of the videos that I took of him. And it was mostly fun, funny stuff to, just to laugh. Because he was a hearty man, like laugh, laugh, laugh. He loved to tell jokes and I love to laugh at his jokes. And the last video that I took of him was on the way to the doctor. He had a doctor's appointment and I would go like every quarter, I would fly home to go visit my parents because they lived in Wisconsin and I live in Washington. So I would always fly out there and just because as they age, I just want to make sure that they were taken care of, all these things. So this last video that I have of him, you always remember the last. So as I say this, think about the last moments that you had with your loved one that you want to capture that. You want to capture that. So what I saw in that video, wasn't just laughter, it was like his essence of who he was. And so that's why I think it's so important to capture, whether it's through photographs, videos, capture those moments. Because those moments, you can't take them and put them in the future. unless you preserve them. So how are you going to preserve the legacy that you're creating? Sorry, I didn't know I was going there, but how are you going to create the legacy, the cultural legacy for you and the previous generations and generations to come? Think about that. How are you going to do that? I've given you several tools, which are in the playbook, tools that you can use to do that. And so just another reminder as we wind down on time on what I want you to do. I want you to purchase the playbook. If I haven't said that 10 times, I'll say it 7 more. But I want you to purchase the playbook because I want you to capture what it is, the essence of what I want, what I'm sharing with you. And you may not get it in this little bit of time that we have together. And so today, I wanted to explore just my personal journey on investing, which I didn't really get to the end of, but I have a few minutes left. So before my father passed, he gave me, he asked me a couple of questions, critical questions, because when you get older, you start thinking about, what's going to happen when you're gone. So he would always ask me this question, are you going to remember me? Are you going to remember me? So and that's part of the title of down here in the book. But he would always ask me that question. Are you going to remember me? I'm like, yeah, sure, sure, sure. Because I just felt a little uncomfortable with those sort of questions because I felt like, man, you're not going to die right now, are you? Those are thoughts that I would think. And so he decided, and this was almost 2 or 3 years before he passed, he wanted me to meet with an attorney to have the properties that he owned, his investment properties, put into my name. At the time, I had an older sister who passed away a year after he did, and that was Ruth, Natasha's mom. She passed away the following year. But before they both passed, he said that he wanted to put the properties in my name specifically because one, he knew I would manage it well. And two, he knew I would treat my brother and my sister fairly with anything that I decided to do. And three, he knew I would take care of my mother. So, so those were the reasons that he gave me for putting the property in my name. So we go to this attorney's office and put it in the properties in my name. So these are investment properties. He owns some duplexes and some single family homes, which he put in my name. But he had this caveat. He said, Kat, I'm just putting your name on this, but they still mine. It's still my property. I say, yeah, I know. So what he meant by that is he was still going to pay the property taxes. He still was going to maintain them, and he still was going to collect the rent. So he did all three of those things. And unbeknownst to me, the last piece of valuable information that he did. Now, my father, just a side note, my father was a high school graduate. My mother was not. My mother taught my father how to read and write. She only went to the 8th grade, but she knew how to read and write. He didn't. But he was good at math, very good at math. He could do numbers in his head. So he was a very good math person. So he would always do the numbers for the rent, but he would have my mother write out the check. So they made a good team in how they managed the assets. And so what he did, I thought that was brilliant, was he continued to collect and pay and manage all of those things, but he allowed me to get the write-offs. Because once the property was transferred into my name, they were legally my assets. He thought he could still file the taxes on them. I said, no, Daddy, you can't file taxes on these because you've already transferred in my name. So sorting all of that out is something you would need to do if that is a situation that you find yourself in. But he paid it all. And then when he did pass, of course, I started taking over that piece, the financial piece, along with my brother and my sister. She helped too, because she would help my mother write checks out and stuff. But that piece I thought was brilliant that he had the foresight to do this years in advance. And tomorrow we'll talk about legacy, just what that means, legacy. So I'll transition us out for tomorrow. But that last piece, when he did pass, what I didn't know is the main property that they own, which my mother lived in, back up 3 months before he passed, he asked me about insurance, if he should get insurance, mortgage insurance, if he should get life insurance. And so I told him I thought it was best to get life insurance, not mortgage insurance. He said, well, I think it's best to just pay off the house. This was 3 months before he passed. I was like, wow, why would you want to pay off the house? He said, I just don't want your mom burdened with this debt, when I'm gone. And I want to make sure she's taken care of. So I said, oh, okay. So he asked for the number. I mean, he was a man of action. So when we had that conversation, he said, give me the phone, call them. He paid it off right there on the phone. I mean, take action. When you're thinking about doing it, do it. There's a reason for it. It's not just coming up. There's no coincidences, okay? So he paid it off. 3 months later, I get the call. It was a call right before I was scheduled to come up for my next visit, which, blew me away. But he did that, paid it off. And this is the part didn't know until after he passed was he did a death deed, which meant when he passed away, the house would be transferred into my sister's name, my brother's name, and my name. So after my sister passed, it's now just in my brother's and my name. And so what I have discussed with my brother is since my sister passed, we're creating this trust where all of the family gets to have that home, and that home gets to stay in the family. And then we have other assets, which we're deciding if we give certain grandkids certain assets, but my sister was not able to keep her property for her children for a long story, but I've shared with my niece and nephew that they're going to have a stake in the family real estate, because that would have been my sister's desire and it would have been my father's desire too. So all of that to say, legacy. Don't underestimate the legacy that you have already created and that you can create. There's so much more we get to do today than we were able to do years ago. As a woman, as an African American, as a business owner, there's so much more we can do. Whether you're in real estate or outside of real estate, there's so much more you can do. Whether you want to be an entrepreneur, online space, selling things, having your own business, whatever it is, there's so much more you can do. Take the action now to create your cultural legacy. Get the playbook, go live in this group, share your biggest takeaway, do the homework. I will upload some homework for you. And tomorrow I'll have a prize wheel, a prize wheel. And so on the prize wheel, you will get your name entered each time you do one of those things. Each time you go live, each time you comment, each time you purchase the playbook, each time you share this group. Now, I will have to admit the people in the group, but share. Let them know to mention you in the share. Share this group to someone who you think needs it. If you see the link in the group and you want to just share the link, share the link. Let them know to mention you in the link. It's valuable. It's a valuable resource that I don't want you to miss, okay? So this concludes day 2 of creating cultural legacy, in which we talked about investing in real estate. I recapped some from yesterday about ownership and mindset, and tomorrow we'll take the leap to legacy, and I'll share some prizes and bonuses for those of you who are going with me and doing the homework. So thank you so much for taking the time with me. This is Kathy Cross Reese saying thank you and have a good day. All right. Bye-bye.